Welcome to the Fantasy Football Fanatics podcast with your hosts Griffin Palmer, CJ Hickman, Jason Cabrera, and Ryan Mitchell.
What is up, everybody? Welcome to the show. It is Tuesday, May 1st. It's gonna be May. You're going to hear that a million times today.
Good God.
Welcome to the Fantasy Football. We just lost the whole viewing audience. But if you're still here, welcome to the Fantasy Football Fanatics podcast, the official podcast of thefantasyfootballfanatics.com. I'm your host, Griffin Palmer, joined by, as you've already heard him, the one and only Jason Cabrera. What's up, Jason?
What is going on 1994? Because I think that's where we are right now. For Griffin's sake.
I've already seen the memes and GIFs everywhere, and it's like a problem because I've been seeing them for days. I don't know why everybody loves that so much, but it's like so engraved in my mind now. I'm like, oh, look, May 1st. It has to happen, and I kind of hate myself. But it's more concerning that you can pull possibly the year out accurately. I don't know when that song came out, but if you said that accurately, that's maybe even more concerning. But anyway,
I have no idea how accurately it was.
Okay,
honestly.
I was gonna say I don't think
I'm probably off.
I was gonna say I don't think that's right. I think you're pretty early on that, but I don't really know. So
I probably am. Yeah.
Either way, we do have an amazing show for you guys today. Today we're gonna be doing an NFL draft recap. Now we're gonna do division by division, team by team on Friday's show. Hopefully CJ will be back. Today we're going to be talking about all of the fantasy relevant signings through all 3 days of the draft. So we're going to be talking quarterbacks, running backs, wide receivers, and we'll dabble with some tight ends as well. And this will be the stuff you need to know. Hopefully you'll save this episode, maybe download it or mark it so you can come back and listen to it again later, because this is going to be important as we move forward into rankings and offseason narratives and positional battles and all that good stuff.
We're going to talk tight ends?
We'll dabble with it just a little bit.
All right, we're going to talk about the Ravens then. Awesome. The tight end team.
We drafted 2 and we already had 4. Yay! Anywho,
6 of those suckers.
We'll probably end up getting another one too, knowing us.
Yeah, that's right.
But yeah, that's going to be our focus for today. Before we get to that, though, we have to talk about something that we always enjoy talking about here every year, and it is the big popularity contest that goes on in the league every offseason, and that is the NFL Top 100, the voted on by the players, for the players, that whole thing. And, this year we have it just premiered last night, so Monday night. So if you missed it and you want to watch it, you might want to skip ahead a little bit. But we're going to break down the top 20 rankings at the beginning of the list, and we'll go through these relatively rapid fire. We won't dwell on them very long. And the reason for that, basically, look, we know all these players. We love a lot of these players, but it's early on, so it's really hard to build a narrative like who was overlooked and why, because we don't know who's later on in the list yet. So we'll just hit them pretty quickly, and we'll keep on moving. So number 100 was Clinton Dix. Of course, the safety for Green Bay. Dropped a bunch of spots from 77 a year ago, so interesting drop there. Number 99, Doug Baldwin continues his slide. He has decreased every year since he first got on the list. He's down at 99. He was 88 last year. I would say that that's probably appropriate for him. Number 98, CJ Mosley, inside linebacker for my Baltimore Ravens, and I think this is a drastic oversight. He should be higher. He's one of the best linebackers in the league. He was unrated last year, which I also, if you were with us back then, congratulations for still being here. I ranted and raved about that a lot. Rave's the wrong word. I basically just ranted. I was very upset. Number 97, Carlos Hyde, making it on here. The running back formerly of San Francisco, now with the Cleveland Browns. He was unrated a year ago. I mean, deserving. If he can stay healthy, he's shown that he can be quite the back, usable in all 3 downs. So we'll see how he does in his first year in Cleveland. Number 96, Malcolm Jenkins, the safety for the Philadelphia Eagles. He dropped a bit as well. He was 90 a year ago, 96 this year. Number 95, Lane Johnson, the tackle from Philly. He was unrated a year ago. Number 90, now I was surprised that he was this low. Number 94, Kirk Cousins. Former quarterback of the Washington Redskins, now of the Minnesota Vikings as of this offseason, dropped from number 70 a year ago. I mean, he did have a really down year, but I didn't expect him to slide that far, did you?
Not at all. This is nuts. I'm shocked.
Man, the players are so cold, so quick to forget.
Brutal.
Yeah. Number 93, Mike Daniels, defensive tackle out of Philly. So he dropped as well. He from 84 a year ago to 93. Number 92, Landon Collins, a big boy slide.
Ouch.
He is, if you play IDP, widely known as one of the top IDP defensive backs that there is. Safety for New York, the Giants. He was 28 a year ago, so that is a massive drop for him. I thought he still had a pretty decent year. I mean, the Giants as a whole really struggled, but I had him in fantasy. He still had a good year for me, so I was really surprised to see him down this far. Number 91.
Yeah.
Sorry,
go ahead.
Oh, no, you're good. Let me see if I get this name right, because it's one of those names you read all the time, but you rarely actually say. David I messed it up. I had it in my head. Bakhtiari, right? Is that it? I'm so bad with names. Anyone who's been with this... Bakhtiari, thank you. I can hear it in my head, but I just can't form the words with my mouth because you don't say these names often, but we all know the guy. Obviously, guard out of Green Bay, unrated a year ago. It's really bad. Anyone who's been with the show for any period of time, this is arguably one of CJ's favorite parts of the year when we start breaking down these draft picks because they're names that we haven't said very much, so I get tongue-twisted all the dang time, so luckily he's not here today. Of fun. I'm glad you enjoy it. I'm really bad at it. Number 90, Jimmy Garoppolo, quarterback out of San Francisco. Of course, traded in the year. He was unrated a year ago because he wasn't a starter. But, I mean, hey, he went on a nice winning streak there. Could be moving up with extended play this year, obviously. Number 89, another Jimmy G. This time, Jimmy Graham, tight end formerly of the Seattle Seahawks, now of the Green Bay Packers. He was unrated a year ago, which was surprising to me. I thought for sure that he had been rated in last year's one, but apparently he was not. So
that kind of shocks me.
Yeah, I did not expect that.
Well, he was injured a lot last year, though. The year before last, rather.
I was going to say he was really injured. Yeah, I guess that's true because it's from the year prior.
Right.
Yeah, I guess so. I guess that checks out. All right, I'll allow it.
You'll let it slide.
I'll let it slide this time. But I mean,
this time.
Oh yeah, obviously he's up there in age, but he's still a monster and a mismatch for.
Oh yeah. Really,
most defensive backs, linebackers, whoever's really put on him one-on-one. Number 89. Oh geez. Yannick Ngakouye, right? Did I say?
Sure. That sounds right.
I think it is. Look, he is an amazing defensive end, young player. He plays for Jacksonville, if you don't know who I'm talking about, and he led the league in forced fumbles. So, I mean, this guy is phenomenal pass rusher. He's a monster, and he's fast. So, he was a big reason that the Jacks went on to beat the Steelers. So, I mean, hey, some clutch plays towards the end of the game there. Andrew Whitworth, the longtime tackle for the Cincinnati Bengals last year with the Los Angeles Rams. He made the list at number 87, unrated a year ago. Number 86, Chris Harris. He took a big drop here. I did not see this happening, but Denver struggled.
I didn't either.
So, I mean, what I find is that when teams struggle, the players drop. That's kind of the way that this goes for some reason. So he's, of course, cornerback for Denver. He was number 63 last year. And
several years ago.
Yeah.
No, just last year.
Well, I remember this time last year talking about how he was criminally underrated then. So now, wow. Yep. It should go up because now with Aqib Talib out of town, people are just simply not going to throw his way. So statistically, he's going to be, I mean, obviously not in the numbers, but in the coverage stats where he's not going to be thrown that very much. That's going to make him a shutdown corner. So maybe his numbers just go up from that little transition right there. We'll see.
Are you talking about Chris Harris or are you talking about Bruce Irvin? Who are we talking about?
I'm talking about Chris Harris with Aqib Talib being gone. Oh, you're gone. Yeah. You're good. Well, spoiler alert, number 85, Bruce Irvin, linebacker out of Oakland. Unrated a year ago. He's on the list now. Number 84, J.J. Watt, still making the list, even though he misses majorities of the season because he's that good.
Wow.
He came out and said last year when he was at 35 that it was stupid because he didn't play most of the season. He didn't deserve to be on there, but that's just how much of a incredibly well-respected, game-breaking player he is in this league. I mean, Defensive Player of the Year formerly, top this list, when healthy. He's always up there towards the upper, top 10. So, yeah, J.J. Watt, maybe he'll be healthy this year. We can only hope. Lingval Joseph, defensive tackle out of Minnesota. He was unrated a year ago at number 83. Number 82, rookie Marshawn Lattimore, cornerback out of New Orleans. Freak athlete, if you remember from last year's draft. Obviously unrated the year before because he wasn't in the league. He turned out to be just as good as I thought he was going to be when we were doing shows this time last year. So kudos to him. And then number 81. Did I put the same guy? I did put the same guy on here twice.
You did.
That's the wrong one.
That's what I was like, wait.
Yeah, it can't be Chris Harris Jr. twice. I don't know how that happened, but the answer is actually Michael Thomas, wide receiver, New Orleans Saints.
That makes more sense.
And he was also unrated a year ago, which I think was kind of criminal. Coming off his rookie year, though, easy to overlook. So, yeah, that is your NFL Top 100 of 2018, numbers 100 through 81. So with that being said, we recapped it a little bit. If you want to know more about these players, I would say go ahead and you can see all these highlights on NFL.com. They make it pretty accessible. But we're going to move on to why we're all here, and we're going to be talking about our draft recap and review, focusing on these skill position players. So let's do this position by position, and we will start as we usually do in fantasy rankings. We'll go quarterback, running back, wide receiver, tight end in that order. And so we'll start at the quarterback position, and we'll just go numerically as they were picked. And the number one quarterback taken with the number one overall pick was Baker Mayfield. Now, we won't dwell on these guys too terribly long because we talked about them on Friday's show, these first-round guys. But now that we've had a chance to step back, see what they did with the rest of the draft, and kind of process it, how are you feeling about Baker Mayfield now in Cleveland?
I still think it was a massive reach. And I honestly, I feel like they did themselves a disservice in taking him first overall. I don't know if they were trying to seek the spotlight or what the deal was, but Baker Mayfield did not need to go number one. I don't think anybody between 1 and 4 was going to take Baker Mayfield as their number one pick. I think that Cleveland could have gotten Saquon Barkley or even Chubb and then gone and gotten Baker Mayfield. So I don't understand picking him number one, again, unless you're trying to make some sort of a statement. But as far as his play on this team goes, again, I've said it before, he fits what they're trying to do. He fits their scheme. He's got the same kind of chip on his shoulder attitude that they're looking for, that they want. So that's good. He's very mobile in the pocket. He can make things happen. He's a very kind of Russell Wilson-like type of a player. So overall, he's a good choice for their offense if he can keep himself in control and not do stupid things off the field.
I love how polarizing Baker Mayfield is because I understand the reasoning behind it, and we've talked about this at length now on the show, so we won't dwell on it. But this is what I didn't predict that the Cleveland Browns were going to do it, but in my rankings, I, as we have said, had Baker Mayfield as my number one quarterback. Statistically, if you look at it just numerically and you look at just last season, he was undoubtedly the best quarterback last year if you look at just the analytics. And you can look at really reputable sources like Pro Football Focus, 4for4, Fantasy Guru, a lot of these places that also had him ranked there. And so I know I wasn't alone on this. These are very good sources as well, resources if you don't use these guys. And it's good stuff. And I agreed with it. So this is something that I had wanted to see happen, thought could happen, but I didn't know if the Browns would actually do it after the debacle of Johnny Manziel. Of course, the off-the-field issues being the concern with Baker. Now, what you said is interesting if he would have been there at 4, because we have to assume if they took Sam Darnold, who will be the next guy we talk about, I assume that still Saquon Barkley would have been picked number 2 by the Giants. But
of course,
the Jets had openly talked about how intrigued they were with Baker Mayfield, so I don't know if he would have been picked. But, if we want to throw a curveball into all this, what if, another narrative that we talked about, the Browns picked Saquon with the number 1 pick? Well, then I assume that it still would have played out the same way. Sam Darnold would have probably been picked by the Giants because they had said that they would take him if he was there, but then obviously they didn't. So I wonder
they didn't. Saquon Barkley would have probably, Saquon Barkley, you're right.
Yeah.
What I think would have happened, my guess was that, and this is how I mocked it, if Saquon Barkley had gone number 1 to the Browns, I believe that the Giants would have actually traded down to get more picks, and someone would have traded up to pick up one of those quarterbacks, probably Sam Darnold.
So then what did you have the Jets doing?
I had what did I have the Jets doing? I had the Jets taking, I believe, Josh Rosen. I need to check my mock real quick. But, yeah, I believe I had them taking Josh Rosen with the number 3 pick. Let me double-check that to make sure I'm right.
See, I didn't have Josh Rosen going there, and I mean, obviously with my draft board and my analytics and the way that I looked at these guys, it didn't make sense, but also based on reports that were coming out of New York with the Jets on how they were really focusing their attention on Josh Allen and Baker Mayfield. So those are the 2 guys that really intrigued them. So
you can't really listen to that stuff, though.
You really can't.
How much did you? How much did you hear? How much did you hear Arizona talk about Josh Rosen? And not at all. They were always focused on either Lamar Jackson or Josh Allen or trading back.
I don't think they thought that Rosen was going to be there, though. And then when Allen got taken, I believe the Cardinals completely had the plan of drafting themselves one of these quarterbacks, and they were going to try and do what they had to do. The Bills got Josh Allen ahead of them. They traded up to take that pick, and I mean they were going to pick in front of the Cardinals anyway. But then the Cardinals traded up to get Rosen because they were worried about him going as well. So I don't think that they were targeting him, but I also don't think they thought he was going to be there.
Right. Well, no, they didn't. But here we go. In my mock draft, this is what I had for the top 5. I had Saquon Barkley 1. Darnold going to the Bills via trade, 2. Josh Rosen going to the Jets at 3. Baker Mayfield going to the Cleveland Browns at 4. And Arizona trading up to 5 to pick up Josh Allen. That was my top 5.
See, and if it had played out that way, think about how much happier the Browns might be. I mean, they got a great talent, obviously, with their number 4 pick, still going out there and getting themselves a massive addition with Denzel Ward, cornerback out of Ohio State. Sure. But you have to think that if this had played out differently.
We'll talk about that later because I've got some thoughts on that.
Okay. This is just a fun, what if game because this whole draft was everyone's mock drafts were pretty much nuked right with the first and second picks. So.
Oh God, yeah. Number 2 happened. Number 1 happened. It was like, all right, well, crumple that up and throw it over your shoulder. Yeah. It's not even close anymore.
It ruined my mock, but it didn't ruin my expectations. Because it's weird, because I had Baker Mayfield as my number 1, but I didn't think the Browns were going to do it. So in my mock, I didn't have it that way. So I was happy when it happened, because I was like, I called it, because I thought he was the best one out there, and clearly the Browns thought the same. So, but, we're dwelling. As far as fantasy goes, let's get back on track. Baker Mayfield, he's not going to play this year. He's at least not going to start the season. We've heard that. They're going to want him to sit, develop. Tyrod Taylor is going to be the starter there. At least that's what we're hearing. And I think that's best for Baker, to have a year to kind of sit, get his head on straight, build a rapport with the organization, really kind of work with these receivers, learn the NFL offense, and develop a little bit, even though he's super accurate. We'll see how he
get sober.
Well, I was going to say, see how he manages off the field as well. But I think that we will only see Baker if Tyrod really starts screwing up like halfway through the year, or obviously an injury. So I think Baker Mayfield could beat Tyrod Taylor out and win the job? Yeah, probably. But I don't think it's going to happen, and I don't think the Browns want it to happen. So I don't think this has much of a fantasy impact this year. Next guy on the list, though, very well could. So we've already mentioned him. So at number 3 overall, the New York Jets took Sam Darnold, who was widely perceived by most mock drafters, more casual fantasy analysts, and actually I would say most people wide, as the number 1 pick and the number 1 quarterback. So he goes to the Jets, who honestly never thought they were going to get him. And I love how we were talking about how the whole Scam for Sam thing worked out. I've been seeing a lot of other places that are kind of saying like, oh, wow, that was a long-running kind of narrative throughout the entire fantasy community. And it actually happened. So it's kind of funny to see. But they got a guy that I think that they could start. I don't see a way that he doesn't at least push for the starting job. I don't think they want him to start. I think they want to work him in slow. But I don't know. It could end up working out that way. What are your thoughts on the impact of Sam Darnold with the Jets?
The only player that they've got on their team that could keep Sam Darnold from being the starter is Teddy Bridgewater. Bridgewater is the only guy that I think could actually go head-to-head with Sam Darnold and make a go of it. But he is a big question mark right now. We don't know if Teddy Bridgewater is prepared to start. I think Sam Darnold, honestly, even if Teddy was 100%, I think Sam Darnold is the best chance that the Jets have for being relevant this year.
What about all the narratives saying that Teddy Bridgewater might not even make the final 53 because they don't really have anything invested in him?
Well, that's stupidity. He's got the kind of, if he doesn't make the final 53, it's because they trade him somewhere or they just decide not to use him, period. He's, as far as talent-wise, he's ridiculously talented. We've seen him in action. When he's healthy, he is amazing. But
yeah, he was a viable starter in this league. I mean, I wouldn't say he was top tier, but he was constantly getting better with every year in his rookie contract. We were talking about him as a good, viable fantasy option as well the year that he got hurt. So,
absolutely,
we all like Teddy.
Absolutely. I mean, if he had stayed healthy, we'd be talking about him. I believe we'd be talking about him as a top tier quarterback at this point. You know, he would have gotten to that point with that team. But
I think he would at least
far
be
as
a
Darnold-
late, number one. Definitely a guy that we'd be streaming for sure.
Absolutely. As far as Sam Darnold goes, I think he's going to end up being the starter. I think he's going to beat everybody else out. He's going to be the guy. He is a gunslinger, loves to throw the ball down the field. One of the things I like about this kid is he's got an absolute just mind for football. He doesn't think outside of football. He goes straight forward, plays the game. He's not worried about being flashy. He's not worried about what everybody says about him or all that kind of stuff. That's perfect for New York because everyone knows that when you play in New York, you are going to hear nothing but just chatter about every little thing that you do. This kid, it's not going to matter to him. He's just going to play.
Well,
and I like his coach, Todd Bowles. I think that's the perfect coach for that situation too, because the same thing. He doesn't listen to the crap. He just coaches football. I like this pick.
Yeah, I mean, I think one of two very predictable things are going to happen here. I think that Josh McCown is either going to get beaten out by Sam Darnold, and Sam Darnold will be the starter week 1, which I don't think the Jets want to have happen, or the more predictable thing where they do still start Josh McCown, and then I know Josh McCown had a career year last year, but you know who else had a career year with the Jets not too long ago? Ryan Fitzpatrick, and then was not very good the following year. I could see Josh McCown going the way of Ryan Fitzpatrick and the fan base losing their minds, the coaching staff losing their minds, and Sam Darnold ends up assuming that role by halfway through the year, Thanksgiving range. So we'll see, obviously. But I know the organization has come out and said that they don't want him to start, but I don't think they're afraid to start him if need be. Now, I think he's going to be a great addition here, but he unfortunately went to a situation which is not brimming with talent. The offensive line is suspect. Robbie Anderson has shown that he can be a good kind of number 2, 1A. Quincy Nunwa we've seen flashes from as well. But behind that, they don't really have much but a lot of role players. Some names that we like with upside, but they don't have like an elite number 1 guy there. And then the running, I mean, they have, 7 running backs on the roster right now? So, I mean, having a guy like Sam Darnold, I'm sure, will make them respect the pass a bit more. Maybe that opens up running lanes. Maybe he does help the running game as well, but I don't think we're going to be drafting too many of these Jets running backs, at least not right now, because it's just too cluttered, and we don't know how it's going to play out. We all assume Isaiah Crowell is going to be the starter, but we all know how much they also like Bilal Powell. They worked in Elijah McGuire. They liked having a 3-back system last year. But let's not forget, they also have Thomas Rawls. They also drafted Trenton Cannon. They have 2 other guys there as well. I mean, this is a congested committee, so Sam Darnold will have an impact, that's for sure.
Well, for sure. And the other thing you got to remember is we were saying the same things about New York last year. You know, we were saying, oh, this team's horrible. They're going to win a single game. They ended up surprising everybody, winning some games and looking like a decent team. Now, that quarterback is better than anything that they had last year. I have a feeling that these guys, again, are going to surprise today. I'm not saying they're necessarily going to be a playoff team, but this is going to be a team that's going to turn some heads and surprise some people.
Yeah. Well, I guess we'll see how it plays out. Let's move on to the third quarterback taken number 7 overall, and that would be not Josh Rosen, as we already mentioned. It was Josh Allen, which surprised a lot of people, myself included. So Josh Allen, as I always like to point out, he was the guy who has a cannon of an arm, yet for some reason at the collegiate level, against subpar defenses, he wasn't in the toughest division, had the lowest yards per attempt, which is very strange out of any of the big top 5 quarterbacks. So a very strange statistical guy. He was very, very polarizing. People either love him or they hate him. I don't want to go as far as to say I hate him, but he was my least favorite quarterback in this draft, though I think he has a massive ceiling, but the floor is what scares me here. I know you're much bigger of a fan, so why don't you tell me about the possibility of what could happen if things get going in Buffalo and he takes over and how this can help fantasy weapons there?
Well, the thing about this guy is that he's got intangibles that you can't teach. I mean, he's absolutely, like you mentioned already, he's got a freaking cannon on his shoulder. Biggest arm we've seen come out of the draft in a very, very long time. If he is given the opportunity with a good coaching staff, the opportunity to sit and learn, and learn how to go through his progressions better, learn how to tighten up some of his mechanics, this guy's ceiling is going to be ridiculously high. I like him because he's calm and cool and collected in the pocket. He doesn't rush. Okay, he doesn't make bad decisions. He throws the ball. If he throws an interception, he's fine with it. He'll come back and he'll continue throwing the ball, and so that doesn't bother him. And as I've mentioned already, this is a guy that took a team that had no talent on it, pretty much, put him on his back, and won games. You know, I like that. Yeah, his numbers weren't great. And as you mentioned, he was playing against subpar defenses, but he also had subpar weapons to throw the ball to. You know, when you don't have a weapon that can run down the field and beat everybody down the field, that big arm, you can't use it.
But truly elite guys elevate the level of the play around them as well. So you can easily make a narrative either way.
You can't make a receiver faster.
No, that's true.
It doesn't matter how good of a quarterback you are. I mean, Aaron Rodgers couldn't come in and make a running back go faster. You know, but bottom line is he is now in a pro system. He's going to get an opportunity to learn this pro system. But this is my issue with this pick. I like Allen. As I said, he was my number one quarterback as far as his upside. I just don't think he went to a good situation.
No, he did not.
He went to a situation where he's going to end up being the guy.
Yep.
You know, unless A.J. McCarron is much better than what we think he is, he's going to end up being the starter on this team, and he's not ready for that. You know, and as much as I like this kid, you know, I have to agree with you that he's not going to do well this year if he is thrust into the starting position because he's not prepped. He is from a college system. Yes, it's a pro college system, but you know what? It's still a college system. He still hasn't learned how to go through his progressions as fast as he's going to need to here in the pro level. On the pro level, he goes through his progressions at the speed he was going through them when he was at Wyoming. He's going to get just murdered.
He's going to get lit up, especially behind that offensive line.
The good thing about him is he can run. That's the other thing is he's actually pretty fast.
Yeah,
he's got good legs, so he might be able to stay alive throughout this season. And he's got LaShawn McCoy to dump the ball off to, and they've got a pretty decent receiving core that he can use. So these are all good news, but again, I still think he's not ready to start. I think they need, even if A.J. McCarron is awful, I think they need to start A.J. McCarron, let him start, let Allen sit behind him and learn.
No, I completely agree, but I just find it ironic that out of the big top 5 quarterbacks, that Josh Allen is the one that is most likely to start because, you know, he's going to compete with A.J. McCarron, and I think he's the only one that has a chance of beating out the guy in front of him. I mean, we talked about Sam Darnold in New York, but New York wants to sit him for the first year, and they've kind of made that clear. But we'll see how that plays out, of course, behind Josh McCown.
Of course.
But, yeah, Josh Allen, we'll see how it plays out. As we've already mentioned, of course, there's Zay Jones, there's Kelvin Benjamin. I think that they may be able to take advantage of the big arm if they choose to let him, you know, sling the ball. The person that, to me, as I've already mentioned, this helps the most is probably not even Charles Clay, but LaShawn McCoy, because they're going to worry about that arm. They're going to kind of drop back into coverage. They don't want to get beat with a long ball, and that's going to help LaShawn McCoy probably pick up some more yards, get some dump-offs, design passes. That's kind of the way I see it playing off. So if you're not scared about LaShawn McCoy and his age with all the wear and tear on his tires, could be still a viable fantasy option. He's slipping in a lot of drafts for those reasons, but this is something that could help him if Josh Allen does come in and become the starter. I think if A.J. McCarron's there, it's going to be kind of business as usual. I like A.J. McCarron, but I don't think they're going to be scared of his arm as much. Taking number 10, the 4th quarterback off the board, traded up for him. The Arizona Cardinals took, as we've already mentioned, Josh Rosen, who pretty universally was expected to be the most NFL ready of the quarterbacks. Now, he has what people would say one of the highest floor, but one of the lower ceilings out of this class. An interesting prospect, a very smart guy. What are your thoughts here? I mean, this is your team, and what do you think the impact is, as we've kind of already gone in depth about this on Friday?
Yeah, taken 10th and ticked off about it, apparently. Okay, so having done my, of course, now he's a Cardinal, so you know I got to do my research on him, and I got to crawl into his stats and into his highlights. Getting in there and looking at this guy, I tell you what, the guy can throw the football. I mean, he can just flat out spin it. He's got a fantastic arm. He's got a very, very good base when he throws the ball. I mean, he never looks like he's uncomfortable when he throws the ball. He throws across his body. He throws on the move. It doesn't matter. He's able to throw the ball from a very, very good, balanced base. That's nice. He is the best pure pocket passer in this draft. He's the best natural thrower in the draft. And he is a leader. He's somebody that you know, understands football. He's a football junkie. He's somebody, like you said, that is a very intelligent quarterback, someone that's going to ask questions, that's going to try to learn at an exponential rate. These are all good things. The bad things are, first off, he's sitting behind Sam Bradford. Okay, and if there's anybody that throws the ball more accurately than Josh Rosen, it's going to be Sam Bradford. Okay, so as long as Sam is healthy, I don't think he's starting. Number two, I don't like the attitude. A lot of people do this whole, oh, he's got a chip on his shoulder. That's great. Well, you know what? I don't want a chip on his shoulder. He's a quarterback, okay? He's got to be able to throw the ball. He's got to be able to think. I don't want him out there playing angry. I want him out there playing smart. And this whole, they made 9 mistakes ahead of me and all this kind of crap. No. You need to stay humble, dude, okay? You have been in this league for a cup of coffee, literally. So I'm a little concerned about the attitude. I'm hoping that this is just opening day jitters and him being young and stupid and all this kind of stuff, and he's going to calm down and get his humility. Because I'll tell you what, he's going to get his humility one way or the other, regardless of whether he figures it out for himself or he goes out there in the first game that he's in and gets annihilated by a defense. He's going to get his humility. As far as how he goes with the Cardinals, he went to the perfect situation for him to be in. He went to a very good team that has a very good defense, that has an up-and-coming offense. It's got a lot of weapons, including the best running back in the league, one of the greatest wide receivers of all time for him to learn from. And, of course, you got a lot of really good quarterback talent there in the coach and Sam Bradford. So, overall, he's in a very, very good situation. He can succeed if he wills himself to succeed and doesn't let that ego get in his way.
I mean, one of the best running backs in the league. We got to see how it plays out, but I get your narrative.
No, the best.
Well,
He's the best.
We'll see, won't we?
There is no debate.
There
is no debate.
There's a lot of guys broke out last year. And there's of course the concerning factors of weapons leaving, and it's a whole nother conversation. I mean, obviously I agree with you. I love David Johnson, but we'll see how it plays out. I think it's too early to crown him that coming off of last year. But regardless,
I've crowned him.
Well, of course you have. You're a Cardinals fan. I would expect nothing less of you. To me, Josh Rosen, he slides in right behind Sam Bradford. I think he's ahead of Mike Glennon, and kind of like you said, this is a great situation for him because he can learn from Sam Bradford, who is a hyper accurate passer throughout his career when healthy. But let's not also forget that Josh Rosen also has injury concerns as well. But he'll get a chance to sit. He'll get a chance to learn. He may get in there at some point this season because Sam Bradford inevitably will probably get hurt. And then, we'll see what he does with Larry Fitzgerald. Of course, you guys drafted Christian Kirk in the second round.
Mm-hmm.
He can dump the ball off to David Johnson, a very good pass catcher as well. Let's not forget also Ricky Seals-Jones and Jermaine Gresham.
Mm-hmm.
They can catch the balls.
J.J. Nelson.
I expect them to be used a lot more in Mike McCoy's offense, which honestly I think I've kind of been looking into it. I think Mike McCoy's offensive scheme is going to work well with Rosen and Bradford, honestly. So I think that as a whole, it's a good fit. The offensive line can use some love, and obviously the defense lost quite a bit this offseason, so I'm intrigued to see if the defense is what it was last year, which obviously they lost a lot of pieces even going to last season, so we'll see kind of how this all plays out. But, the most NFL-ready guy, he's going to be starting behind somebody else, so we'll see. So I can't really talk about how he elevates anyone's game because he's not going to be starting. Next guy, of course, Lamar Jackson, and we talked about this for quite a while, and, of course, we recorded fresh after the draft happened. And it turns out that the resources we were using that were talking about what the Ravens gave up, I tweeted about this, was inaccurate. So they gave up a little bit less than I thought. So I can get behind it more. I talked about this on Twitter. I still think we could have got him later and for less. But, again, kind of as you pointed out and we talked about, having the fifth-year option on the contract is a good thing to have. It helps them keep the quarterback for less. And it's a good story, and I get the whole thing. Now, Lamar Jackson is going to sit this year. I think preferably they'd have him sit for 2 years because of all the reasons we also talked about. He's a slender, mobile quarterback. He needs to bulk up. He needs to learn an NFL system. He needs to kind of get it all under his wing, see how it's done, learn how to be a leader. Joe Flacco, he's owed a lot of money over the next couple of years, and they can get out of his contract after this season. So we'll see how it all kind of shakes out. But, Lamar Jackson, as you pointed out, he could be the most electric quarterback in the league. He's been compared to Mike Vick, and people have said that he's miles ahead of Mike Vick when he came into the league even. So they're saying that, Mike Vick, who was this, elite quarterback for fantasy and real life for a good stretch there, this guy could be him, but better. We'll see if it actually happens or not. I don't like the offensive system that we have now, but what we also have to think about is Marty Mornhinweg. He also worked with Michael Vick, so it makes sense why we have now Lamar Jackson and RG3 on the team. He knows how to work and maximize a mobile quarterback. So we'll see how it all plays out down the line. For this year, he's going to sit. We'll see him in the preseason. But unless Joe Flacco goes down, I don't think there's any chance we see him, so there's not much point in dwelling on talking about him too much. Let's talk about one more, Mason Rudolph, who went to the Pittsburgh Steelers with the 12th pick in the 3rd round. Mason Rudolph, a guy that we all talked about on the Patreon show that we put out. We talked, right? We talked about him on the show we put out to everybody, didn't we? Or was that
yeah, we talked a little bit about Mason Rudolph.
Yeah, we do so many shows, I can't keep them all straight sometimes. We talked about this was that kind of guy who was the marker between the rest of the guys who are backups, at least perceived backups, and all the other 5 guys we mentioned. This guy could go either way. He's expected to be kind of like an A.J. McCarron as far as, he could be a really high-level backup, but it's kind of too early to tell if he'll ever be like a starter or a franchise guy. But a really upside player here and an heir to the 36-year-old Ben Roethlisberger, perhaps. They needed depth of the position. They get it in a young quarterback. The move makes sense, especially with Ben Roethlisberger hinting at retirement for what seems like 3 or 4 years now. So I get the move. I think he slides in. Maybe, I don't know. Do you think he slides in ahead of Landry Jones? Because Jones has been there for a while now. I assume he probably doesn't right away. What do you think?
No, he doesn't yet. No. I think he's going to sit behind. He's going to sit as the 3rd guy on the chart. If he was like we said, this guy is probably a high floor, low ceiling kind of a quarterback. I do like the pick. I like the matchup here with Rudolph going to the Steelers. Makes a lot of sense. Same basic kind of quarterback as Ben Roethlisberger is. Big guy, good arm. But he has a lower ceiling as far as we know right now. And remember, everything changes when you go to the pro level. So someone that you think, oh, this guy's got a low ceiling, he could haul off and be an excellent quarterback. We just don't know until we see him in action at this level. Overall, like I said, I like him. I don't think he's going to be this number 2 guy in Pittsburgh yet. I think he'll be number 3. He'll sit behind Landry Jones and wait.
Yeah, I mean, it's kind of like you're saying. He could light the league up. He could be the next Tom Brady. He's got the weapons around him to do it. So, I mean, I'm not saying that's going to happen.
No one thought Tom Brady was going to be anything when he came out of the draft.
That's true, and it's hard to not be successful when you got players like Antonio Brown and Le'Veon Bell, both elite options at their positions, on the same offense. So, again, this is all for nothing. There's no point in us really dwelling on it for too long or debating it because we don't think he's going to see the field this year because we both agree we think he's going to slide in as the number 3 quarterback to start the season and probably stay there this year at least. So with that, of course, we have to dwell on the quarterbacks quite a bit. So now as we move on, we'll be able to power through a little bit quicker. Let's go to the running backs. And taken with the 2nd overall pick was running back Saquon Barkley. Top prospect on everyone's board, bar none. Super elite talent. The term generational talent has been thrown around a lot in recent years. This guy trumps all of those guys in spades by all analytics, the eyeball test. Everyone loves this guy, and the Giants decided not to take a quarterback number 2 overall. Their future of their franchise, they thought this guy was worth taking over Sam Darnold. So they did. So, I mean, obviously they got an elite option, which helps improve the offense, which will help improve the passing game because they'll have to respect the run. He can also catch the ball out of the backfield. He's a good pass catcher. So I think this move helps the entire offense. So it's an interesting move by the Giants for sure, but I think a beneficial one and a guy who's definitely worth drafting. So I guess since I know we both are in agreement to that, we don't need to dwell for too long. My question to you, Jason, is where do you think he slides into drafts?
You got to slide in pretty high. I think that they're going to use this guy as the linchpin of their offense. I think that they're going to run the offense through this guy, even though he's a rookie, even though he's probably not ready to shoulder that kind of load. I think they're going to think he is ready, and that's okay. That's okay for them to think that because this guy is such a talent that you could do that. And once he does that, he's going to get a lot of. They're going to like it a lot. They're going to like using it. He's going to be like, again, David Johnson. I always make this comparison because that's really who he reminds me of. The speed, the elusiveness, the hands, the power, the size, all of it is sort of the same kind of deal. And once you start using a player like that, it just becomes like, okay, how did we ever run this offense without doing this in the past? So, yeah, I think he goes pretty high. I think probably 3rd round, and that's being conservative.
No way. I think this
Yes,
guy,
sir.
the way I have him statted out right now, which I think is pretty conservative, there's no one contesting him for touches. He's probably going to be good for around 300 touches this year. The way I have him just pretty like middle of the road averaged out, I have him as my number 7 running back right now. I think he's going to be a late first round pick. So
I can't argue with you.
I
can't argue with
I think
you.
come draft season, that's where he's going to go. Because let's not forget that a rookie has been the rushing leader the last 2 years. A bunch of rookies last year finished as top 10 running backs, and this guy, a super elite talent, in a situation where he's going to be just force-fed the ball, and he's having no competition and a passing game that they're going to have to respect as well. He behind a pretty decent run-blocking offensive line. Everyone kind of makes fun of the Giants' offensive line, which does need some help, but the run-blocking scheme of the offense actually was okay last year, even with the crappy running backs that they had. So I think Saquon
You think first round?
I think he's going to be a late first-round pick when it's all said and done.
Wow.
I mark my words. I see him going there in mock drafts probably already. So
I can see it. I can see it. I mean, like I said, I was being pretty conservative because he's a rookie, but I can definitely see him going in the first round.
There's no way he goes in the second. I mean, Ezekiel Elliott, for instance, the last guy who was trotted like this kind of talent, but obviously we think that Saquon Barkley is even more elite than Ezekiel Elliott. He made it well into the first round, so I think there's no way Saquon doesn't. There's a lot of top-heavy talent, of course, in fantasy this year, but I think he cracks that number 1. If not, if you can get him in the top of the second round, holy crap, do you have a bargain. So, Saquon Barkley, not much more to say. Let's move on to the second running back taken, and this was something we've already talked about, and incredibly shocking. Taken with the 27th pick in the first round, the second running back off the board was Rashad Penny, who I don't remember where you said you had him in your rankings, but he was I don't have him in front of me. I think my number 5 or number 6 running back. So this was very surprising to me. I know a lot of analysts around the league and a lot of draft specialists. They've all been looking at this move like, what the heck did the Seahawks see in this? In fact, many are saying that the Seahawks really blew this draft, and it all started with this pick. Could he be a really good fit for them? Probably, but they have such incredible needs all over the place. I don't know why they felt the need to go running back and this running back. They need offensive line help just to make the running game work, much less the passing game. So this was really surprising. I know to me, I know to you, and I know to most. So why do you think that they went and they got Rashad Penny? Because I don't think in that situation he's going to really have a chance to be very productive for fantasy.
Like I said, I don't understand the pick either. Not necessarily that they took him. Look, if they liked him, if they saw him and did a workout with him and they really liked him, and you know what, I really like this kid, I think we should draft this guy, okay? If they did that, fine. Okay, great. But why? Why trade back up to get him? Nobody was going to take this guy in the bottom of the first round.
Nobody was.
Nobody. He was going to fall. He was going to fall. He was number 6 on most people's boards. Number 6. And there'd only been, at that point, there would only been one running back taken.
Yep.
And that was at the very, very top, and it was a generational talent, as you said. This guy, now look, I like Rashad Penny, okay? He's a good overall back, okay? His brother plays on the Arizona Cardinals. They're both good running backs. They're power running backs. I get it, okay? But again, why? You did not need to do this. You did not need to trade up, give away picks, to go get this guy. You could have waited and picked him up in the second round, easily in the second round.
What really confuses me too is like we talk about the need on offensive line, and this Rashad Penny, he doesn't even grade out very well as a pass blocker. So they literally are just going to use him as probably a running back. And I mean, I get the fact that no Seattle Seahawks running back got over 240 yards last year. That's a very well noted factor. So they needed a big downhill guy. They wanted somebody who could just, get going and just keep going, wear down the defense. But he's not that explosive.
You made a really good point, though. It starts on the offensive line. They already have 5 running backs before you even talk about the guy that's coming in. They've got 5 decent running backs. Some of these guys have flashed a lot of talent. Okay, you get them a better offensive line, and they're going to be productive. You don't need to go get another running back to throw back there. You keep throwing running backs at the problem. that's not going to fix anything. You go get yourself some offensive linemen. Will Hernandez was there. Braden Smith was there.
Yep.
James Daniels was there. They could have gone out and gotten any of these guys, in the second round.
Yep.
And then fine. And they would have been able to upgrade their offensive line and then make that running back tandem work with whoever they decided to use.
What blows
my
mind
they
is
still could have gotten Rashad Penny.
Oh, yeah.
If they'd have done that.
Oh, I mean, this was hands down a reach. Everyone's saying that. Even if they love the guy, like you said, they could have gotten him later, not given up anything for him. They could have traded back if they loved him that much. But what also blows my mind is with how suspect this offensive line has been for a while now. They didn't take a lineman. They only took one. They took a left tackle in the 5th round was when they finally grabbed one. So I don't know what the Seahawks really were doing with this draft. They picked up a decent number of defensive players, which they also needed, but they didn't have a lot of draft picks to really work with. They drafted a backup quarterback. They drafted a backup tight end. They drafted a couple defensive players.
A punter.
They drafted a punter in the 5th round. I don't know. I mean, like I said, I don't want to keep piling up on the Seahawks, but I know a lot of analysts out there are saying, what was Seattle thinking? So I'm sure they have a plan.
Yeah.
I'm sure that they feel good about their moves. At least I hope they do. So we'll see how it plays out.
What's funny to me is they came out right after the draft was over, and they were like, several teams called and tried to acquire Rashad Penny from us.
No, they
Everyone's
didn't.
Like, shut up. Shut up, Pete.
Yeah.
No one's listening to that crap.
That never happened. You are a liar.
You are a liar.
I literally laughed out loud when I heard that.
Yeah.
It's never happened to us before. As soon as we drafted the guy, we started getting phone calls about trading for him. I'm like, shut up. Just shut up.
No one believes you. Just stop it.
If you got one, I would be shocked, much less saying a bunch that called.
Right.
So, yeah, I mean, again, we're not in the war rooms. We don't know where teams had this guy ranked, but I can tell you that for us and every other source out there that I follow, research with, interact with, talk with, nobody had this guy as a top 3 running back, much less, well inside. We had him as our number 5. Most places, like we said, were 5-6 range.
Yeah, I had him at 6.
Yeah, but let's keep moving because we're spending too much time on him. And we'll go on to the next guy, which was also kind of a reach to most people, but we don't really question the Patriots. So at number 31, the Patriots drafted Sony Michel. Now, I know some places did have this guy as the number 2, if you take into account the off-the-field issues that Darius Geis had, which is what we all assume is why he slipped. Some people had Sony Michel up that high. I had him as my number 4 running back, personally. He's explosive. He flashes really a great ability to hit holes and catch, and he's getting all these comparisons of being the next Alvin Kamara, though most people are arguing that he's not quite that explosive. But, I mean, he's a role player. And what intrigues me is all the people who come out and say, oh, well, he slides right in as the number 1 back there. He's going to fill that role and solidify that position with the Patriots. The Patriots don't do that. The Patriots love having a committee of backs they can deploy in all different ways. Yeah. So I don't think that's the way it's going to be at all. I think they like having an explosive option that they can use in creative ways, and that's what it's going to boil down to. Because, I mean, I don't think he's going to be necessarily the goal line back. He's only 5'11". It's not like he's a huge guy, really heavy. He's only 214 pounds. So, I mean, obviously you have Mike Gillislee there, which that experiment started off well, and then it really didn't work out. But let's not forget they re-signed Rex Burkhead to a very nice contract and brought in Jeremy Hill, both of which I expect to be more involved in the red zone. And then as a pass catcher, they already have James White, which that's what he does is catch the ball. He's not going to run very much. So Rex Burkhead can do it all. So Sony Michel, I think they're going to use him creatively, but I think he slides in right now as the number 3, number 4 running back. So an interesting move by the Patriots, but I'm sure they're going to have some solution on why they did it. So for fantasy, though, I don't think this guy is draftable right now. You're going to have to monitor the team, and if one of these guys goes down, then, yeah, he's going to be a free agent acquisition. But, for the point of what we're talking about today and for fantasy, I don't think he has much of an impact. Do you?
No, I agree with you. I'm one of the people that looks at these comparisons. I keep hearing, it looks like Alvin Kamara. I don't see that. I don't see him looking like Alvin Kamara. Alvin Kamara, to me, is a speedy slasher. This guy is not a speedy slasher. This guy is a guy that'll run and punch in the mouth. I mean, if you watch him run in his highlights, he's pretty fast. He's a game fast. He's not fast. He's game fast. And he loves to hit you. He will hit you on the way through. Okay, so I don't understand the Alvin Kamara thing. But as you said, he's on a team now that the bus pulls up and all the running backs get off. Just like Seattle, it's not a good situation for fantasy. It's not someone you're going to want to look at because there is such a muddled backfield back there. Now, it's probably a good pick because, again, we don't question the great Bill Belichick when he makes a pick. Everyone goes, okay, yeah, good plan, A+, and so he'll probably fit in where they want him. But as far as is he Alvin Kamara? No, he's not going to. Don't think you're going to be drafting Alvin Kamara 2.0 when you draft Sony Michel. He's not going to have that kind of production.
No, I think the obvious thing here is that he steps into that Dion Lewis role. Dion Lewis was universal.
Yeah.
He could do it all. That's what Sony Michel can do. But as far as in the depth chart, so can Rex Burkhead, who they re-signed for a decent contract. So I don't see it. We're not going to dwell on it because we're for fantasy. We don't think it's going to have much here. We have a lot more guys to get to. I don't know. Of course, the comparison to Alvin Kamara is because he is a dangerous pass catcher. He throws blocks. He can do all that, but not nearly as explosive.
Again.
So we'll see. So now we move into the second round. We'll cover a couple more of these running backs. There's a couple more that are definitely fantasy relevant, and then we'll kind of move on because a lot of these guys will be streaming options at best. At number, where were we? We were at, number 3 in the second round, the Cleveland Browns. Now they got their running back. They got Nick Chubb, who was my number 3 running back on the season or in the draft. He projects as being a 2-down back, but really powerful downhill runner. I really like Nick Chubb. Of course, people talk about how he could have gone a lot higher. Some people saw him as the best running back in the draft, which I think is ludicrous with Barkley being there. But
it's ridiculous.
Of course, the reason he dropped was the injury risk. But I really like Nick Chubb, and I think that this is a good pickup by the Cleveland Browns, but in a position that they, at this point in the draft, I think they could have been looking elsewhere for need a little bit. But if he was the top player on their board, I guess they get it. That gives them a very serious option behind Carlos Hyde, because the rest of the guys behind Hyde they leave a lot to be desired. We'll put it that way. So I think it's a good move, but they clearly saw this as their best option. Probably not draftable, but definitely a guy to keep our eyes on as a waiver wire addition, especially if Carlos Hyde, who usually inevitably does go down, happens to go down. What are your thoughts?
He's a heavy guy, almost 230 pounds. So this guy's gonna be a bruiser, and I think he's a good fit in a tandem with Duke Johnson. You've got.
I agree.
The guy that's going to go straight ahead, and then you got Duke Johnson who's going to be that pass catcher slasher guy out of the backfield. So not a bad choice. As you mentioned, I had Nick Chubb as my third guy.
Yep, me as well.
Right. So I like the choice, and that made me feel a little bit better about them not getting Saquon Barkley. But I was like, you got a shot at a guy like that. Why in the world? But again, Nick Chubb along with Duke Johnson, now they've got a 1-2 punch there. I think that's going to work out pretty well for him.
Well, I just think Nick Chubb slides into that Isaiah Crowell role. I mean, I obviously
maybe a bit more upside.
Yeah, no, I could see a world where that happens. Obviously, Duke Johnson's still there, which was good, but he's more of a pass catcher, I think, in the way they want to use him. Right. Carlos Hyde can do a little bit of it all, but I think Carlos Hyde's going to be their lead back. I think Nick Chubb's going to end up coming in and being their goal line back, maybe first, second down back, spelling Carlos Hyde. And Duke Johnson's going to be that Swiss Army knife they bring in for probably pass-catching downs, 2 running back sets, things like that. That's just kind of the way I see the offense going. So, really, Carlos Hyde's the only back of value for me in drafts, unless you're in a really deep league. Nick Chubb might be a good idea for best ball type leagues because Carlos Hyde inevitably gets hurt. But yeah, I don't think Nick Chubb's probably draftable in fantasy leagues, even though he was a second-round running back. It could be wrong, and we'll see how it plays out, but I don't see him winning the starting job, and therefore hard to value him as much more than a late-round flyer. So we'll move on. Let's see. Next guy on the list was taken in the 6th pick of the second round. That's Ronald Jones II. Now, he was rated, where did you have him in your rankings? So I had him as my number 6 running back.
I believe I had him number 4. Yeah.
Number 4? Well, I mean...
Yeah, I'm pretty sure I had him at number 4.
This guy most commonly gets compared to Jamal Charles, He's very, very, very fast. He has really good burst and top-end speed is how he's commonly referred to as. And he's stepping into a position where he could get actually a pretty good workload with Doug Martin out the door. So this is one of those names that I wasn't expecting to be excited about going into draft season. And obviously it's the day is young. It's early on. But this is a guy that you could potentially kind of snake as a sleeper. Snipe is the word I was looking for there. Snipe as a sleeper a little bit. Yeah, either way. A little bit later on in your drafts in the double-digit rounds most likely. I don't know if this guy will climb. People might get smart to it, but it's going to be an interest. It'll depend on how tuned in your draft is. But this is a guy you can probably get late, I'm assuming right now, and he could get you a pretty healthy workload. I like this pick. What are your thoughts?
Well, first off, I was wrong. I had him at 5, not 4. Yeah, to be honest with you, this was one of the runners that I was least impressed with when I went and watched his tape and watched him in games and stuff. Nothing about him really jumped off the tape at me. It's like all these other guys, something jumped off the tape at me. When I was watching Nick Chubb, his power was jumping off the tape at me. Sonny Michel, he was a violent runner. You could tell he just loved to smack into you. This guy, I was always kind of like, okay, he's a serviceable running back. That was the best way that I could describe him. So nothing really surprised me. Nothing really, enchanted me. And he's kind of a smaller guy. So the workload is going to be a little bit scary for him because he is a small guy, and they're going to try to ride him. I'm a little concerned for it. Let's see.
You kind of beat me to my point there. I was going to make because his frame is a knock against him that a lot of people have had, and I agree. If you look at him, he looks like he's going to get broken at the NFL level. He's 5'11", 200 pounds, so not a very big guy.
And he ran a 4.65 40. I mean, he's not exactly fast either. So, again, nothing about this guy really was like, wow, cool. I just watched him and was like, okay, well,
yeah.
That's
right.
Serviceable back, I guess.
Yeah, I misspoke before. He's reviewed as being not having top-notch, elite, high-end speed, but a great burst. That's kind of what I meant to say, but I misread my own note. But it's late. Full disclosure, I'm running on no sleep at all. So, but we're here. Yeah, we'll get there. We'll get there. But yeah, Ronald Jones, it's going to be polarizing. It's going to be interesting. I think he starts the year behind Jacquizz Rodgers, but he could easily win the battle and be the starter as well. I could see this going either way. But I think it's between those two for the starting running back job, and then probably Peyton Barber behind them. So it could be interesting. A lot of upside and a guy to definitely monitor. And if he wins out the job, or he seems to be very involved in the preseason, a guy who could be worth a late round flyer for sure, because he's going to be probably one of those home run hitter guys, because he's very explosive, and he could probably break a tackle or two or dodge a couple people and make some people miss. And you don't need super high end speed if you're in the open field to pick up yardage at least. So we'll see. Two more guys worth mentioning to me. The next guy on our list is Kieran Johnson. Now he is a big guy. He's 6 foot tall, 213, so not the thickest guy. He was my number 7 running back. He went to a team that needed a running back. He got drafted the 11th pick in the second round by the Detroit Lions, and this pick to me kind of spells the end of Amir Abdullah. I think that he's going to step in, kind of take that Amir Abdullah role, and he will probably be the first down, second down type guy. And then they already have Zach Zenner and Theo Riddick there that we know that they like. But home run hitter and LeGarrette Blount. So that's why I think the ceiling is really capped with this guy. I'm not really sure what he's going to do besides first, second down work. If he even earns that, because we have to see how it all plays out. But I expect him to. I think he's going to be battling Amir Abdullah for that starting role. But it could end up being someone else. So it's hard to get behind this guy. So here we have, again, another second-round running back who I'm probably going to stay clear of until we have a clearer picture, which we most likely won't have until training camp, preseason for sure, and even then it could all be false advertising. So I don't know. What are your thoughts on him? Well,
see, the Lions did what they needed to do in this particular situation. They went out and got themselves an offensive lineman to begin with, their number 1 pick, which I always applaud. I always say good idea.
Oh yeah, that was a must-do.
Absolutely, grabbing an offensive lineman, especially a center, someone that can anchor your line. Then they go out and get this guy. Okay, so the idea is if you improve your line, you can get a regular run-of-the-mill running back, and they should do okay. That's kind of what I think they were thinking when they went after this guy. As you said, he's slender. He needs to put on a lot of weight, or he's going to get killed. He's not the fastest guy in the world. He's not the strongest guy in the world. He doesn't make great cuts, but he's a straight-ahead runner. So he could be very good, but again, not somebody that's jumping off the page, not somebody that I have to go draft. I think he's a waiver wire guy.
Yeah, I agree. I think he has the frame to put on the weight. 6 foot, kind of a big guy with that big kind of wide frame. At least to my eyeball test. So I think in an NFL weight training program, he could probably put on another 10 pounds or so, and then he could be a pretty decent sized back out there. But yeah, look, they drafted him this high because I think they want to use him. And I think he will end up being, as I keep saying, the first, second down back before it's all said and done. Because I think the Amir Abdullah experiment is over because he can't stay healthy. And when he's been in there, he was not very good last year. But there's just so many other options there. I'm worried about his ability in third downs. I'm definitely worried about his red zone usage. So I agree. I think this is a waiver wire guy, at least until we have more clarity. And then the last guy we'll talk about, a guy who I had as number 2 on my draft board. I think you did as well.
Me too.
Slid due to off-the-field concerns. Apparently, he had a lot of interviews where he came off as kind of immature, as what a lot of the reports are saying right now, and that's why he kind of slipped. And that's Darius Geis. Now, Geis has been I found a lot of places, and we talked about this as well on our Patreon shows, that a lot of people have said that they saw this guy with his on-the-field performance as just this sledgehammer of a player who could have been the number 1 running back taken in various other years' drafts. I really like the guy. I know you really like the guy. And so I was amazed to see him slip out of the first round. And not just out of the first round, but the players taken ahead of him. So he goes to what I think, very good situation to the Washington Redskins, where I think he steps in and he becomes the day 1 starter. I don't think that there's going to be any real competition there. Of course, we heard all about how they want to use why am I blanking on his name? Rob Kelly as their starter, and I think that he'll be the competition for the starter, but I expect Geis to win that job out if he is at all as advertised. Samaje Perine has kind of taken a step back. Or actually, no, was it Perine they said they wanted to be the starter? Either way, that's going to be the trio of guys who are competing, and then Chris Thompson's going to be the third down back, very explosive last year when healthy. So they have quite the committee there, but I honestly expect this offense, when it's all said and done, to be Darius Geis as the starter, making him fantasy relevant, probably a mid-round guy you're going to pick up, and Chris Thompson's going to be that third down back, and the other guys are going to spell them, rotate in, be depth, that kind of thing. What are your thoughts?
He's an inch shy of 6 feet tall. He's 225 pounds, so he's a good size for a running back. Decent hands. He can catch out of the backfield. He's a north and south runner, not afraid to look for contact. The comparison I've seen for him is Marshawn Lynch, just a power runner, loves to run people over, and deceptively elusive. This is a first-round talent. As you mentioned, I had him as my number 2 guy. I thought he would go much, much, much earlier than he did. And as you mentioned, there's a lot of talent that went. There's a lot of guys that went before him that were not as talented.
We talked about this I mean, the 2 teams that took running backs in the first round. Well, not even in the first round. The 2 teams that I really thought this guy was going to go to was either the Seahawks or the Lions, and they both passed on him.
I had him going to the Giants, but yeah, I mean, it just amazed me that he dropped. So my guess is that, like you said, in those interviews, he really must have screwed the pooch because all these teams would have taken him otherwise.
You would have to think so. Now, I mean, he isn't the best pass catcher, but they say that he has potential there and he can work on it. But he goes to a situation, probably most places where they have a pass-catching option. He can be that sledgehammer, that first, second down, and goal line back. And I've seen comparisons, which I can kind of see it in his running style. As you said, he seeks out contact and seems to really enjoy it. There have been comparisons to him and his running style being like Arian Foster, where he can be elusive, but he also likes to run through guys. So I kind of see it.
Right.
Like we said, 224 was his weigh-in, 5'11", just under 6 foot tall. He's a big guy, and he's going to get bigger in the NFL. So I really like him, and I think the Redskins got a steal here at the end of the second round. So, I mean, kudos to them for pulling the trigger on this. I'll throw this to you, Jason. I think we have a good amount of content here, and we haven't quite hit the wide receivers yet. How many wide receivers do you think are worth saying? Because we could push wide receivers and tight ends to the next show. But of course, there's 3 that are definitely worth mentioning, but there's quite a few that also went that I think we could spend some time talking about. So I'll ask you, we're over an hour already. Do you wanna call it here, and we'll come back on Friday and really be able to then deep dive on these guys?
I think so. Yeah. We've got Calvin Ridley and Kirk and Sutton and more to talk about in wide receivers. And then we got tight ends to go into. So yeah, I would agree with that. Let's table this for next time.
Yeah, Chark I like, Scott I like. There's a lot of
Chark, yeah.
Really some guys that really slipped that I really kind of want to talk about some more. So, yeah, I think we'll do that because otherwise this is going to be a 2-hour podcast, and we don't want to overwhelm you guys. Yeah. And I know a lot of you guys are probably thinking, oh, well, that's more content. Do it. But it's also, we don't want to overload you guys, and it gives us a chance to give you guys the best quality that we can, so we'll do that. So if you guys want to learn, neither here nor there. We'll take an energy shot and we'll just keep going. But yeah, we'll be back and we'll get CJ in here because I know that a lot of these wide receivers CJ has pretty strong takes for, so it'll be interesting to get him involved as well. So we'll talk about the pass catchers, the wide receivers, and the tight ends on Friday's show. So if you guys enjoyed what you heard today, make sure you guys subscribe and follow, and we'll be back then and we'll talk about all those positions. So if you guys enjoy the show, also make sure that you comment down below. Let us know your thoughts on what your team did, what your thoughts are on these players. If you think they're going to be fantasy relevant, where you're thinking about taking them, start a conversation. We generally will talk back. So you can find us either on YouTube, commenting down below. Like I said, you can interact with us on Twitter at the FF Fanatics, so that's 3 Fs. Or individually, I'm at G Palmer FFF, and Jason is at Jason Cabrera 13. And if you want to learn more about the non-offensive players, we're going to be covering them on Patreon at patreon.com/thefantasyfootballfanatics. So that's the more advanced shows. That's why we cover IDP over there pretty frequently, things of that nature. So, and that helps support the show, helps us keep the lights on, helps us keep doing what we're doing. So with that, we are out of here. Any parting thoughts, Jason?
But guys, pretty good draft, honestly. I mean, there weren't as many bad grades as I've seen in the past on a lot of teams. So good draft, and we're going to go into it. I like it.
Seahawks, by far the lowest rating I've seen.
But they lose. They lose the draft.
Which is too bad because they really needed a good offseason. But we'll see.
It's not too bad.
No, only because you're a divisional opponent. But, yeah. All right, so we are out of here, everybody. Take care. Have a great week. Send us a message. We'll happily talk with you about any questions you have with any other players, and we'll be back on Friday talking about the wide receivers and the tight ends, your top fantasy relevant options. Until then, guys, take care. Bye.
Life in the fast lane, moving at the speed of life, and I can't slow down. Only got a gallon in the gas tank, but I'm almost at the finish line, so I can't stop now. I don't really know where I'm headed, just enjoying the ride. Just gonna roll till I drop and ride till I die.